When you hear the term suicide mouse, the first thing you'll most likely think of is what's considered the forefather of lost episode creepypastas. If you've never heard of the story, then allow me to fill you in. The creepypasta goes into detail about a supposedly lost Mickey Mouse short from the 1920s era, showing the titular character, Mickey Mouse, walking down the street. Mickey has his hands behind his back, and has sort of a dismal look on his face. Random piano keys can also be heard in the scene. This goes on for about 3 minutes, then the screen goes to black for another 3 minutes, and comes back, but now Mickey is smiling, and distorted screaming can be heard instead of the piano. The short ends with the classic Mickey Mouse face, and Russian text it translates to, "The sights of hell bring its viewers back in." Now I know what you're going to say.
It's just a creepypasta. This can't be real, right?
Well, what if I were to tell you that there is at least a possibility that a short like this could have existed at one point? In this video, I will be gathering information on the animation industry from the 1920s and even 1930s, Disney, other studios, and even some on the mouse himself. But before we begin, I must pressure one thing. Creepypasta stories are typically written by other individuals as an attempt to make a scary story. But this leads me to my first point. Most people say it's not real because of the creepypasta story. While most creepypastas are fake and are written to be creepypastas, there are stories that are adapted from genuine urban legends. For example, username 666 is an internet urban legend about a demonic YouTube account. This is another example of an urban legend that was adapted into a creepypasta. So we shouldn't discredit the legend just because a creepypasta was written about it. The legend came first, and the pasta came second. In fact, Suicide Mouse was not the original name for the urban legend. Most refer to it as Mickey Goes to Hell, or Mickey Mouse in Hell, before the creepypasta version was even made. But why would Walt Disney even make a short with its mascot in hell? They're known for their family-friendly films and characters like Snow White, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, Moana, The Little Mermaid, etc. It doesn't make sense that they would make something of this nature. Well, that's because we're focusing on what Disney is now rather than what they were. Yes, I know the already mentioned Snow White was released in the 1940s, but I'm going even further back to before Disney made theatrical films. During the 1920s and 1930s, studios like Disney and Fleischer made shorts to show before a picture or film in theaters. Shorts of this nature are still made today, but typically for animated films by the same company. But since these shorts were shown before live-action films and sometimes even films aimed at older audiences, the nature of these shorts were aimed more towards adults, which is why many of these shorts were notorious for using sexual content, cigarettes and cigars, alcohol, realistic guns that were even fired at other characters, and in some cases, death.
You gotta say a fag, a pipe, nail, weed, rope, chaw, cigar, or snuffer, or anything. Just anything.
Most cartoons these days can't do any of that because they're either aimed at kids or put in a network that had kids as their target demographic, like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. And the only exceptions come from adult cartoons, internet animations, and Japanese anime, as they're more aimed towards an older audience. But would we go as far as to have a character in hell for the basis of a short? Yes, in fact, multiple times. Examples include Swing You Sinners by Fleischer Studios, which features a character running from a cop after terrorizing a chicken coop and entering a graveyard as an attempt at escaping the officer. The graveyard then begins springing to life to harass him, saying how he must pay for his sins and that his time has come.
Get ready, brother.
The short ends with him being chased by monsters and running into a cave where he falls into a pit and is swallowed by a massive skull. And then, that's it. The short ends with the character most likely in hell. No dream sequence, no forgiveness, just hell. Another later example would be the 1949 Tom and Jerry short, Heavenly Puss. In this short, Tom ends up dying and entering heaven, only to be denied entry for harassing Jerry. To enter heaven, he must return down to earth and get Jerry to sign a contract as proof for his forgiveness. If he doesn't, then he'll be dragged down to hell. After some pleading and begging, Jerry signs the contract, but it's too late. Tom is pulled down to hell but wakes up moments later realizing it was just a dream. And even though most TV animation is more censored, there was another case of a character being sent to hell. This example comes from Rocko's Modern Life in the episode To Heck and Back. At Chokey's Chicken, Rocco's friend, Heifer, orders a large amount of food. As Rocco shows concern for Heifer's eating, the cow begins choking on some chicken. He dies, and his spirit rises up to heaven. Well, almost. As Heifer sees a sandwich fly by, he tries to move himself towards the food, only for his wings to disappear and his body to drop down to heck. This is where the character Beaches educates Heifer on gluttony, one of the 7 deadly sins. He wakes up only to find out it was all a dream, but ends up repeating the same mistake as if it was an endless cycle. Even the sign to heck is spelled like hell, but with a C&K painted over it, so it's clear that the idea of a character going to hell in cartoons isn't too far off. But would Disney themselves make a short of this nature? Well, they did once in the 1935 short Pluto's Judgment Day. This short shows Pluto chasing a cat. Mickey stops him and begins scolding Pluto, calling him a bully and saying that he will pay for it in his Judgment Day. Pluto then lays down, angered at Mickey, and falls asleep. During this slumber, a cat's spirit opens the door and calls for Pluto's attention. Pluto's spirit leaves his body while asleep, similar to the concept of astral projection. The cat then mocks Pluto, and then he proceeds to chase him. But the cat tricks Pluto as he's swallowed by a giant cat statue, and he slides down to hell. He's then restrained, and is surrounded by chanting cats as an even larger cat in a red cloak appears in front of him, calling him public enemy number 1, and puts him in trial for his crimes against cats. He's then shown other cats that unfortunately die due to Pluto's persistent chasing. One example being a round cat who recounts to the court about how he was bullied by Pluto for his size and is chased towards a steamroller where he is flattened. Another example is a cat that is strapped down to a wheelchair due to how mentally unstable he has become because of Pluto's actions. He's found guilty by the jury and then is strapped down to a chair that is being dropped down into a pit of fire. But right before it drops, Pluto wakes up realizing it was all a dream and atones for his mistakes. So yeah, not only is it possible for Disney to make a short about one of their characters being sent to hell, but it's already happened. Yes, I realize the material in Suicide Mouse and Pluto's Judgment Day are completely different, and that leads me to my next point. While being a creepypasta does not at all discredit the idea of the legend, it does discredit one thing: how the short is set up. You see, back when Mickey Goes to Hell was just an urban legend, no one knew its contents nor its story. What we've read in the creepypasta and in fan-made animations was made for the story. If Mickey Goes to Hell was at all real, it would most likely be more humor-based, and have a happier ending much like Pluto's Judgment Day. But, if this short did exist, that just leaves one more question. Why would Mickey be sent to hell in the first place? He's such a kind-hearted and caring soul. Well, that wasn't always the case. In fact, back when Mickey made his debut in the short Plain Crazy, he was actually disliked by viewers who said his personality was dislikable and too similar to other characters at the time. So what was different? Well, back when Mickey was first created, he was more mischievous and in some cases, perverted. In the short Plain Crazy, Mickey takes Minnie for a plane ride. While in the air, he tries to force Minnie to kiss him. Yeah, not the same mouse we know today. But it was the negative feedback and the existence of an already angry character, Donald Duck, that helped shape Mickey's personality to what it is now. But there's one more thing I'd like to go over. This isn't the only urban legend that revolves around a lost black and white Mickey Mouse short. Another is the legend of the Mickey and Minnie sex tape. The story goes as so. 2 animators working for Disney decide to make a cartoon about Mickey and Minnie having sex as a gift for Walt Disney's 34th birthday. He laughs with everyone else and asks who made the short. The 2 animators revealed themselves, thinking the laughter will continue. On the contrary, they're fired instantly, and Walt demanded that the short was destroyed. Much like Mickey Goes to Hell, there isn't much evidence that proves that this short was real, though many people believe this story more than the Hell short for 2 reasons. The first is once again the "it's a creepypasta" arguments, and 2, the short was made as a joke and wasn't meant to be shown to the public. The urban legend of Mickey Goes to Hell doesn't even detail why the short was made in the first place. But if this short was real as the urban legend claims, then where is it? Well, there is a number of possibilities. One is that Walt Disney didn't want to send his mascot to hell. Pluto was fine, but only because he wasn't a mascot of Disney and actually had a reason to be sent to hell, unlike the kind-hearted Mickey, who also represents the Walt Disney Company as their stable icon. 2 is that the short was scrapped during development in favor of another short. This happens more than you think, especially with seasonal shows like what we have today. 3 is that the short was made and even shown to audiences, and simply became lost and forgotten like many other shorts and characters from that time. Hell, maybe even Disney hid it away due to its nature. 4 is that the urban legend is false, and a short called Mickey Mouse in Hell was never put in production. Or, another possibility is that 5, the original idea was scrapped, but was repurposed for Pluto's Judgment Day, as the short has a similar premise. This would make sense as cats don't like mice, and one of Mickey's rivals is Pete, a large cat. In fact, the size of the cat in Pluto's Judgment Day is similar to Pete's. But with that being said, we'll never know. Though we know now that it's at least possible considering the history of hell-based shorts and episodes, Mickey's old persona, and Pluto's Judgment Day. But we still don't have enough evidence to say whether or not the story is real. I guess that's up to you to decide. We will probably never know considering how old the short could be and Disney's tight grip on their content, but it's at least interesting to think about.